Hi there, and welcome back to the Fuse Show. Today we have Konark Sharma. Konark Sharma is the CEO and founder of Freestand Sampling Solutions, the trial marketing platform for fast moving consumer goods. He started his journey as a student entrepreneur as an undergraduate student pursuing computer science and has pursued building technology ventures since. He's also a consultant at the Future Army Officers Academy, an EdTech startup, and formerly involved with an IoT product startup and a short film production startup. Thanks for joining us in the show.
Hey, thanks, David.
So
How are you?
how do you get involved into entrepreneurship at such a relatively early age of your life? I think a lot of people are still trying to discover what drive you want to study when they're in school.
Awesome. I think the story behind that is like so I wanted to get into computer science. Yeah, I think I used to play a lot of Need for Speed back when I was in school, and what I wanted to figure out was I really like Lamborghini as a car. So I
Hmm.
think one of my Google searches was how expensive is the Lamborghini, right?
Okay.
And it said like about 3 crore Indian rupees. And I think Indian newspapers have this bad publicity thing that they do, where every single time somebody gets placed, like when people back in the time were getting placed at Google and whatnot in the valley, they would essentially convert $100,000 into INR, right? So
Hmm.
typically about $150,000 would convert into 1 crore. So in my head, that translated into if I get a job at Google, ultimately within 3 years I can get a Lamborghini. Most likely, I did not know what the real actual mathematics of that would be,
You
but
forgot
that felt
taxes.
good. Yeah, but yeah, and I figured out, okay, so the next step was, where do you get a job that pays, like how do you get a
Sure.
job there? And all the advice was really shitty, like back in like 2008, right, and whatnot to find. And so the general advice that adults had was like, get into an IIT, which is an Indian Institute of Technology, right? And I was like, okay, but it's really hard to get into it, right? So it's like about 0.1% is something is a
Sure.
selection rate,
Okay.
and whatever not into it. So I prepared hard for it, right? But I wanted to get into computer science. Like that was, I genuinely enjoyed computer science. I wanted to become an engineer. It was all my decision, unlike for a lot of other Indian uh, kids out there, right? And once I got into college, right, I think I worked really hard on like physics, chemistry, mathematics, and science.
Hmm.
But once I got into college, I didn't get into an IIT. I got like into a college that is slightly lesser than that. And in that process, once I went into college in the first semester, they were like, okay, now we're going to do physics, chemistry, and mathematics, but advanced level again. I was like, where the hell is computer science? I was like, fuck this shit. I don't want to. I don't want to do this, right? Entirely. And I just decided then, let me just go out there
Hmm.
and study on my own by myself, because there is no way. Like, because I think I was in 2000. I was in ninth grade or 10th grade when I decided, you know what, I'm going to dedicate myself to getting into IIT, and I'm going to really
Hmm.
slog through that. So I had already devoted a bunch to that, and I did not feel fair for me to go through that grind again in college. So I
Hmm.
think that's the trigger. Plus, I think a lot of cool stuff was happening back then. I think Google was launching their Google glasses, right? Heads-up display glasses, and I think there was the Project Ara that they were doing, which is like a modular phone back in the time. And like phones were really bubbling. YouTube was like really, really just starting to get into the scene,
Hmm.
at least in the Indian landscape. So overall, tech was really fascinating, right, and whatnot, and it just became a natural progression. To, to do, building something felt a lot more natural and a lot more attractive as a proposition,
Hmm.
and just a slippery slope from there onwards, right? You start building into one thing, you start partnering up with people to build stuff, and then you just you figure out how you just want to do more and more of it. So I think I enjoyed it. So here I am,
Hmm.
like building Freestand right now is my third company, like ever. Like the other two don't really count because they were college startups. Yeah, but this one is a lot more serious for me. Yeah.
All startups are still startups.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think they would be, but I think compared to like the experience that I've had with Freestand now,
For sure.
I mean, it's almost not, that doesn't count as much. Yeah.
So it's funny. I too got down the path, started going down the path of entrepreneurship when I just wanted to buy a house in the Bay Area, and
Uh,
the prices of houses were raising effectively faster than I could reasonably increase my income. And I was
right.
like, okay, this is not a game I want to play anymore. And I was like, I had to think about what are the alternate ways to win this game.
Mhm.
So how'd you go from okay, I want to become an entrepreneur to getting into the domain of consumer goods?
Uh, Consumer goods. That's another interesting story. I'll quickly give you. So when I was in my a couple of startups that I had done before in my college. Like one was my filmmaking startup. We made short films for YouTube, and
Mhm.
also for like the monetization was by brand partnerships. And after that, there was an IoT startup, right, where we were trying to devise what would be Apple Watch quality, health tracking sensor, right? But we failed at that back then. So I was coming out of these two experiences, and I really wanted to take things slow, and I wanted to, focus on basics. So I really got into fitness.
Mhm.
Like after that, I was like, you know what, I'll take some time and really learn, teach myself things, and I'll focus on the health as well and whatnot, everything. So when I was focused on my health and fitness, right, like I really you'd naturally get into a lot of nutrition if you're really serious about health and fitness. And I got into cold pressed juices, right? And because like right above my gym was like what would be a Whole Foods
Mhm.
in America, right? So it's called Nature's Basket in India, the comparative, right?
Mhm.
And I got into a lot of cold pressed juices to like keep in shape and get the nutrients and macros and micros. And in that process, essentially, I just like realized that okay, this I started to like I decided to start my own cold press juice brand. I was like, maybe you could make them tastier, right? And it's out of that, so essentially that got me into CPG and FMCG essentially
Mhm.
to figure out okay, D2C is something that is opening up. That discovery phase like happened for us. And yeah, and that is how essentially like when in the process of planning marketing for my product launch for my cold press juice, we realized that if you're going to make a better tasting alternative of an incumbent product in FMCG, we'll have to sample a lot. We'll
Yeah.
have to get a lot of people to try our product, right? And the status quo back then, and like still at large in India, continues to be hiring a bunch of promoters, and handing out product samples
Right.
manually to whosoever comes into the store. I mean, product sampling has been the same for like decades, like centuries at this point. Like, and there's no data into it. It's a very opportunistic kind of a marketing activity, right? You have a community. I'll give you my product. You just distribute it. I'll pay you some money. That's what it's been very transactional. There's been no data and everything into it, and it felt pretty non-natural to us to do that because I came from technology background, right, a little bit, and my co-founders, my partners, right, were also coming from technology background, right. So we felt it was a lot. We started to think about how will we sample if we'll sample as a brand, right? And in that process, we ended up really realizing that sampling is a much bigger problem and felt a lot more intuitively inclined to
Mhm.
build for technology for product sampling. And that's how Freestand. That's how we moved into FMCG and technology as an intersection of our current startup.
Did you actually end up launching your cold pressed juices? Is that a thing someone can buy on the internet?
No,
Okay.
never did. Never did that. Just a bunch of recipes scribbled on a few notepads here and there. Yeah.
Hey, that's a
Yeah.
win. I feel like so there's I don't know if you're aware, but there's a huge community around the idea of like Soylent, the idea of like some nutritionally
Oh yeah.
complete
Yeah.
meal
Yeah.
replacement, and people try
Yeah.
to create their own DIY versions that taste better
Yeah.
or has a better like macro distribution, and
Yeah. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
feel like at some level you're kind of like a mad scientist, and you're just trying to come up with a better product.
Yeah. 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 I think Soylent is amazing. Almost like I think I've never had it on my own, but like I've like learned so much about that community, and like kudos to the brand. Like they've made their recipes publicly available. They encourage people, I think, to come up with their own recipes as well.
Mhm.
And I think that's a very positive, like positive some mentality out there. I mean, sometimes when I'm like working with a brand here in India, right, like as a client, I cannot tell them to maybe you should do something like that, right?
Mhm.
Possibly if you have a brand that product that is simple enough, the community can probably challenge and come up with a new way to improve your existing product, go for it, right? But I don't think I've seen enough of that here. But like, yeah, that's something I like about Soylent and mad scientist vibes. Yeah, all kudos to that. All for it. Yeah, that's what gymming teaches you ultimately, how to make the chicken tastier. Yeah, right.
That's hard. Making chicken tasty can be a huge challenge. It took me like a few years to get it right.
Oh yeah, it always takes time. Like and then there is the how to get broccoli to taste right, and I don't think anybody can do right. Right? Completely. Yeah.
So you have this idea. You have this idea. It's like, hey, I've seen this problem in the market. How'd you find your first batch of people to talk to I guess, do like customer discovery?
How do you do customer discovery? I mean, I think outright. I think cold calling
Oh, okay.
is
You
one.
cold called. Okay.
We cold call people essentially. The simple idea was the first client. So I mean, we were just at it, and we were able to. I mean, Lucia, like there are a bunch of LinkedIn extensions you can use to
Right.
really
Right.
get a phone number. and if it's somebody's problem right out there, then they will want to use it. I think yeah, we were able to cold call since the beginning from day one, and we were really because like I had a little bit of an entrepreneurial experience before, so I was not afraid of like that hitch
Right.
to call people was
Yeah.
not there to begin with. So
Okay.
it was easy, like, so to get the first few clients. I mean, it was not easy, but the internalization of that process was not difficult. Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
you know how many cold calls you've done at this point?
A few hundreds, if not thousands, I think.
Okay.
Easily done like a few, yeah, easily a few hundred phone calls, easily. Yeah.
And what's the conversion rate on that batch?
Actually, quite decent.
Oh, okay.
Not a bad conversion rate, actually. I'm quite proud of my conversion rate.
So what
Uh,
titles are you like going after in terms of like, I don't know, the standardized like LinkedIn, whatever platform?
what other way outside of LinkedIn?
Sorry,
Uh,
like on LinkedIn, what titles are you looking for to find your appropriate match of your
Um,
IT?
I I rather like to take the company route instead of
Okay, I
taking
see, I
the
see.
title route, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'll go to the company page, and from there identify what people are there. Probably try to find, first priority would be somebody who's from my college, or like somebody whom I would probably have a lot many connects with,
I see.
and then essentially just, and marketing is a specific dimension, right? Product sampling comes into marketing,
Hmm.
so a mid senior to a senior individual in marketing would do.
Gotcha.
So yeah, that's the general idea. With SMBs, you can directly call the founders as well. Like with smaller brands
Right.
and medium-sized brands, it's dramatically easier to just call the founder. And pre-COVID days, you could just, I mean, pre-COVID days, you could, like, walk outside, walk into somebody's office and just wait. Just ask the receptionist to get you a meeting, and just wait outside, and you'll get
Mm.
the meeting at the end of the day. Somebody will spare 15 minutes to speak to you. I
Right,
think
right.
people are actually quite nice. Ultimately, at the end of the day, and if they're shitty, then that's just an experience you get. It sucks, but yeah, it happens. Yeah, yeah.
So how far along were you in the building process of an MVP before you started cold calling?
Parallel,
Okay.
almost parallel. Like, so we were building it and we were calling. Like, so it was absolutely parallel. So there's no hold up on that. Like, so we were building the product, and
Mhm.
we were calling the clients that we wanted to reach out to, and we were looking to make sure to reduce the friction, right? Because we are building a B2B enterprise software product,
Mhm.
and it helps, and the enterprises, like, even for businesses don't take decisions without other logos
Right.
as easily. So like, in the very initial, like, our trickiest part was to figure out a model where we don't lose money, but we still acquire the customers, right? So
Mhm.
coming up with a model where there is enough money, like, to make the whole program work without losing any money as a bootstrapped company. That's what
Mhm.
we prioritize for. Like, so got the first client for free, got the second one to pay at an additional margin, third, fourth, paid up as well, because the logos kept on piling that way. So
Right, right.
right, essentially that was the single process.
So what's the pricing model now? Is it like a percent basis, or is it like flat fee per X interactions? How do you price it?
Actually, pricing is our biggest pain point right now,
Okay.
that we're trying to resolve it, because we're evolving, right? As a company, we want to be
Right.
more of a SaaS offering, right? And enterprise SaaS offering right now. Like, so there are multiple ways we can price ourselves, because essentially, uh, we're building onto a bunch of services, right? We are product sampling. So how product sampling works, I think, David, just to help you understand right now, digital product sampling, right? So the offer to claim the sample gets distributed via media.
Mhm.
Then the customer has to interact with the brand directly, automated interaction, and then there is a sample that needs to be delivered, or fulfillment
Right.
needs to take place, right? And so this is a bun. This is essentially 3-4 services brought together. We don't. For delivery, we have partners for targeting, right? Targeting the right customers or distributing the sampling offer. There is media buys that
Mhm.
go into it, right? And then there's the interaction bit. Interaction bit is what we build in house, right? So there are multiple ways uh, we can factor in all the different pricing. We can charge a margin on top of whatever our costs are.
Mhm.
We can also price it. We can also do a platform fees model, right, where we stay make the tech cost a separate cost, and like the cost per sample is like a different one. We are kind of experimenting with what direction would work the best for us right now. But there are quite a few ways, and we have experimented a lot with our pricing. So that in our bootstrap times, and I think that's an advantage of the entire duration we took when we were bootstrap. We made sure that we could run every single possible experiment we can, because there's no pressure when we're bootstrapping. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you consider yourself a tech company or a tech company plus a logistics company?
We're a tech company.
Okay.
We are a tech company right now. Yeah.
So
I
when you
mean, yeah. Yeah.
so you don't get yourselves involved in the 3PL process of actually like taking physical goods at all.
No, we do take care. We do take part in that. We
Okay,
do
I see, I
facilitate
see.
that, but we are building technology on top of it primarily as well. We are working with our partners, right, essentially to deliver the sample to the end customer's house. Uh, uh, but we are primarily building technology that builds transparency into the processes. We can maybe even bring in a local delivery vendor or a local 3PL partner instead of using a branded one, so that we can offer our services at a much competitive rate.
I see.
But I mean, we could innovate in full methods to fulfillment in the future, but that's not something. I mean, I don't think we today qualify as a logistics company. That is.
So how do you find 3PL companies to partner with if that's not a core part of your business? I imagine there's
Yeah,
like that whole world is its own business.
yeah, it is. It's pretty easy actually. Just call them.
Oh, really? There's like a
Yeah,
directory of 3PL companies you can just like call?
yeah. You can. I think you can Google right now, right?
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, because there are like e-commerce is booming in India, right? Like
Okay.
like
Yeah.
crazy, and the startup scene is quite healthy, right? So there is almost there's a startup almost for everything, and some of the startups are really matured up, right? And they do like allow you like and like they're like it's easy to get in touch with somebody at these enterprise like at 3PL companies, or let's say a delivery logistics company out there. And yeah, so it's actually not really hard to partner with a logistics company or a 3PL company,
Okay.
like at least in our experience at least. There's a lot of variables to understand, a lot of things to understand, but I think that's an information challenge mostly.
And you mentioned you're trying to tackle the sorry, you're trying to help your clients go like solve the end-to-end solution. Is that correct?
Correct. We're trying to be like the out of the box solution for product sampling, like users to do come up with any product sampling campaign out there. Like yeah, like how Mailchimp would be for email marketing,
I see. But
Freespan
for
wants
okay.
to be for product sampling, right? Exactly. That's how we like to go about it. Yeah.
Do you use Mailchimp as a comparison often?
Yeah, quite often. Yeah, it's actually. I mean, we're often selling to marketing teams, and senior marketing individuals have like almost all of them happen to have experience with email marketing. So those are the suites they must have actively used by themselves.
I see.
So like Mailchimp like is like connects all the right dots. In that. At least that's our opinion right now, and I think it's yeah. If we do get this at the end of Mailchimp is for email marketing, and Freestyle not sure product sampling, that does add up, and that's like the check for us. Okay, that is working. It didn't work for us in Y Combinator, I think, when we applied to the Y Combinator. Like, I think I wrote it there as well, but no, it didn't work out. That way.
So the so let's say you get a cold call, someone picks up and they're willing to take the call. How
Right.
long is a typical sales cycle to go from that first cold call interaction into them being a paying customer on your platform?
For SMBs, the decision time can be about 10 to 15 days,
Okay.
right? Like essentially, the first, technically the first call is a brief intro. Pre-COVID days, at least, it was a quick intro, like about what we're doing. Send me a deck, schedule a one-on-one meeting, right? And then take the meeting, and then they'll have some questions, resolve those questions. Maybe they can have a bunch more questions at that point in time or negotiations directly, and then close. Most of the sales pipelines will fall flat. Like either somebody does not take the call, or at the call the pitch goes bad, right?
I see.
So the most major fallout in the funnel is happening at those stages at large. I think that if somebody has invited you over for a meeting, it does end up like going quite the distance. It will go some distance for sure. It'll at least reach negotiations if the meeting has happened. At least that's our experience with our pipelines.
Is negotiation a new skill for you? Is that something that you're learning through Freestand, or is it something you've done in the past as well?
uh, I think having run a couple of startups during college, did bring that experience, like because at Tech Retards, right? We were essentially we were trying to build this short film, short film media company, right? That's what we were trying to do there, and we were partnering with a few brands there, right, as well. And I was leading like some of these collaborations. I think this was my second year as college. So yeah, some experience from there, and plus then like a lot of my friends really used to aggressively criticize me for being superfluous with my spendings, right? So that really got me to understand about like negotiate. Like I used to observe my friends that were better at spending than me.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so there is a little bit of that, but yeah, majority of the learnings have happened at freestand only, and they continue to happen. I think like you cannot really be good at. I mean, if I was great at negotiations, right, like things would be moving much more faster, and we would be making a lot more margins right now. But that's not happening. We need to always push that. So I am subscribed to the master class just for the Chris Voss lecture
I see.
series, right? Yeah, so that's what I'm currently trying to go through.
Have you read his Never Split the Difference?
It's I was referred to it today again by during
Okay.
one of the call, like one of our advisors referred us. You should read that book, and I was like, yeah,
Hmm.
I'm just going to the video lecture series first, right? Yeah, and
Something
just
I
a better
really
learning. Yeah, yeah.
Something I
Sorry.
really like about your website is at the bottom of the pages, you have a link to books that you love. Like I haven't seen that before, and I think that's just so cool. Like I think more businesses should put out the books that they enjoy. Like it's like pretty cool to see a personal view into a person's mind in terms of who they've read, who they not read, and what they like.
I mean, like we found that we thought, I mean, we were trying to really put out the vibe that so people are really important at Freestand, right? And the idea is that we want to connect to people, like even a hiring process, like interviewing process is cultural fit first, technical fit second, right?
Thank you.
Essentially, with our interviews, like so, we'll talk to somebody for an hour before we understand how skilled they are, right? I mean, of course, we'll only interview them, but their skills on paper are actually quite decent, not bad, like at least. But that's, I mean, so the idea is that we want to talk about things that we're actually genuinely passionate about, or things that we really like, or things that we actually enjoy, and yeah, it's under that pretext, that we, that's essentially the reason why we had this, the books that we love. We also had the ad campaigns that we like and enjoy. I think if it's not there, it's currently getting updated. And we have like I think we are planning to put out like songs that we enjoy as well, like a Spotify playlist of like the top three favorite songs of everybody in the team, right? So I think that's just a more homely, just a more personal vibe for people at free time. Yeah.
I noticed that your co-founder on one of her websites, she lists out the thing like she has a list of her favorite movies in IMDb. And I thought that was pretty cool. Like I think it's always pretty neat to see the movies that people enjoy in the same way as books.
Yeah. So when I was in college, I think somebody told me that when you check mark all the IMDb top 250 movie list, right? I think they ask you to take a quiz, and then they send a plaque to you. I don't know if that's true. I did not do that.
Hmm.
I wanted to be very honest with it. But like I think my friend told me that his brother got it. I don't know if he was lying or he was saying the truth. I'm not sure about if that happens or not. But I think that's where I got into habit of like watching a movie, coming to IMDb and rating it
Hmm.
up, and Sneh also like, but Sneh got too obsessed with that idea. Yeah, yeah. So she has it on her website as well. Yeah.
So when in high school, I told myself I would watch the top 250 on IMDb at some point. And the
Right.
funny thing is, it's just too long. Like I feel like sometimes
Yeah.
there's too many movies that are out of genre or out of my
Yeah.
interest. But they are like from a cinematography standpoint, they're really good. But they just don't.
Mm.
They're just not enjoyable to me. And I was like, shoot, there's a huge difference between the things I enjoy and the things that
Uh-huh.
are good.
Yeah. 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 That is so true. Like, and I think a Krugzart video, right, is like so much more enjoyable than like I think the most movies that you can see out there. I don't know, right? And I've not yet gotten through that complete channel, and I've just like recently gotten exposed to philosophy videos
Hmm.
and like content and like sci-fi videos in that category on YouTube, like
Hmm.
coming out of the whole Casey Neistat not vlogging enough, leading me to explore more quality content out there. So like movies have actually taken a little bit of a backseat right now, right? So that's currently something of the case. Yeah.
You're talking about culture fit interviews being an hour long. What would you ask in that 1 hour long conversation?
I don't know. I think we're very inefficient. That's why they're an hour long, to be honest with you.
Okay.
They're not an hour long because we're brilliant at it. But I think what we mostly try to do is we try to really like unless there's a vibe, like I think we try to ask as many questions as we can to understand about how realistic this particular person is about whatever they're saying. Ultimately, I think yeah, that's essentially where we end up spending most of our time, like just understanding what matters to this person, what does not matter to this person, like how articulate are they, will we enjoy hanging out with them or not? Will we be doing the justice to the rest of the team by bringing this particular person with these particular viewpoints into the team? And I think in general is trying to have a good time, right, with a particular individual. That's the whole idea. Like if like how quickly can somebody loosen up and be like realistic about their things, and because we're not a corporate, we are a startup, right? And that means and those are just the things we need to find out. And they take some time because people come to interviews, and they come to interviews with like a hyped up energy than what they would usually have. I think most of the times, because everybody's trying to do good at them.
Right,
There's
right,
nothing
right.
wrong with it, right? Everybody's trying to be amazing. Like maybe like right now in this video, like during this interview, I'm particularly maybe a little bit more energetic. No, actually, I'm not. This is how energetic I am. But essentially, people tend to like take that additional time to 10, 15 minutes to just like settle down and get the vibe and get a little chill. So that's why they get about 1 hour long. Usually for us. And we are inefficient. I'm fully aware about the fact that we are inefficient with that process. Yeah, but we can afford that right now. We're a small team. Yeah.
So inefficiency is, I think everyone thinks they're inefficient, but at the end of the day, I think doing the right thing could sometimes take longer. And if you're able to make a better decision by taking a little more time, I don't know if I consider it inefficient.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, an hour now, if it can save like like tens of hours of no drama, like in the
Right, right.
future, it's worth it then, right? That's I mean, yeah, that's I mean, so we don't get any drama in our team right now. Pretty happy about it. That is, yeah.
One of the questions you mentioned asking is like what matters to someone and what doesn't matter to them. I really like those questions, and I generally like to ask those questions too when I interview people. But I'd love to reflect the questions back to you. Like, what would you say matters to you and what doesn't matter to you?
Wow, awesome. What matters to me, I think what matters to me is like, to work in like a tech startup, right? That's not, like there are so many good opportunities, great opportunities out there, right? And I mean, we're a great opportunity from the standpoint of if you want to learn a lot right now, and if you would like to take ownership of things, right? And those things, right? From people. Uh, uh, so the reason, like, so what I'm like, what matters to me right now is like, uh, so I'll answer that question with a little bit of an anecdote.
Sure.
So I think Jeff Bezos was an absolute boss man to like come up with like Amazon back in the day, but it was also a fairly obvious idea if you really think about it. I don't know. In retrospective, it feels very obvious, right? And I think people who did not think of that idea, I'm like, what were you guys doing? Like other people who were living in that same parallel timeline.
Right, right.
And in context to that, I would like to I'd like to think that what there is an idea that just became possible this moment because of technologies that are available just in this moment, right? So there is an idea that one could not have before this moment, right? Like so there was a point in time when Amazon became a feasible idea all of a sudden. Maybe the time when websites were there, warehouses were there, deliveries happened. I don't know. There must have been a few things, technological breakthroughs that must have happened for something to be possible there and then. Uh, for me, what matters to me is like what personally matters to me is I would like to be the person who can come up with the ideas that are getting possible today, right? I don't know if that makes sense. Like being aware
No, no, I
enough
hear you. Yeah,
of
yeah,
my
yeah.
technical surroundings that I can come up with those ideas. Maybe I don't take them up or I don't execute them, but I think that's where I would like my awareness or understanding of things to be, right? Maybe from let's say from a business model standpoint, or let's say from a technical breakthrough standpoint, whatever variables I can cobble together. And I think whenever I come across any of those ideas, I really feel good about it.
Do you write them
Yeah.
down?
I do try to maintain a Notion doc
Okay.
for like my ideas, and I've categorized them as B2C, B2B, B2G as well actually.
Oh,
Uh,
I do the same thing.
yeah,
Huh?
and I'm trying to come up with like on one of my side projects a few months back was to trying to come up with like an idea classifier tool. Because I figured out every idea essentially belongs to a certain industry, and that industry will have some existing competition, and that and there'll be founders there, there'll be funding there. They'll be like, I was like, why can I not just type my idea and just have that analyzed for me, right? So I've been trying to come with that. Have not been able to build anything on it. But yeah, I mean, I think that's what side projects are for. They're never they're never to get completed. Yeah.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, this opportunity for, I guess, the opportunity to always be growing and to always be increasingly aware of your technical capabilities as, I guess, tech becomes more available, as well as
Yeah.
opportunities in the market is the thing that really motivates you. Is that right?
Yeah, it's of hyper value. I think like the previous startups that I was running, I was way too much more confident, like about things like I felt like I knew a lot more. I think it was like the what is that effect? I'm not able to recall. When you know a little, but you think that you know a lot. Uh, I, I think I'm a loss of words. I think
I know
it's
you're talking about the Dunning-Kruger effect, something like that.
Dunning-Kruger,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
So back in the day, I had the Dunning-Kruger effect,
Yeah.
and like as I've spent more time learning things like that, so like that awareness about how much I don't know has really started to settle in. So like I think right, and and now there's an internal need to maybe combat that feeling,
Mm.
right, as well. So that's why maybe that matters to me a little bit. So that's what that matters to me. What does not matter to me, I think that's another part of the question that I completely forgot to address. Right, what does not matter to me? Oh wow, I've never thought about like what doesn't really matter to me. Uh, doesn't matter to me is uh, I think I have no idea honestly. What doesn't matter to me? I really have no answer for you on that front. Yeah, that's my honest take.
The common one I usually hear from a lot of founders is they don't care about either a certain lifestyle, they don't care about money, they don't care about the flashy cars. Do you still want the Lambo?
No, I also got into like a lot of Top Gear and a lot
Ah,
of
okay.
YouTube video vloggers. I think Doug Dumero as well and
Yeah,
whatnot.
yeah. I love his
Yeah.
videos. His
Oh,
reviews are
yeah, yeah.
good.
Amazing video. Right? I think I really enjoy the part where you get to know the technology inside. And I think my take on cars has changed severely because I used to be like I think I used to be a lot into cars because of how what their interiors were like,
Mm.
right? And now the interior technology has really dated back, right? So that fascination has really gone away and entirely because I think the difference between an average cheap car versus an expensive car used to be the amazing interior experience that
Yeah,
they could
yeah.
provide you, but the cheap car does not really provide you a bad experience anymore,
Right.
right? And it makes a lot more financial sense now. I understand a little bit of finance, right, over there. So it does not seem like the money. I don't think like when it comes to like what matters to you, everything has some form of attribution. Like if you were to do a marketing, if you were to do like a mixed model for what matters to you, I'm sure money has some form of attribution for everybody.
For sure. Yeah.
And I think yeah, but so I really don't know what does not matter to me in that context, right?
Okay.
That would be like a very good question to explore actually. Yeah.
So let's say we fast forward a few years and you're making like, I don't know, a few $1 million a year. Would you buy a Lambo at that point, or do you think it's not relevant to you anymore?
I don't know. I don't know how will I be like making a few $1 million in a few years. I mean, I don't have a straight path to that for myself.
Okay.
Will I be buying a Lamborghini out of it? I don't know. Does not seem like the most uh, useful thing to
Hmm.
do with your money, unless I'm trying to brag around. I think at least COVID has made that even more, like out there because the car like has been standing out for like over a year, like, and it's been driven like I think 10 times at
Hmm.
best right now. I don't know. So is that something that I want to spend that kind of money on now? I would definitely spend like buy the most expensive, like Herman Cardin Logitech chair that is out there.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I would like a really comfy chair and a great work desk.
Hmm.
And I think the top of the line computer. I think those things matter to me. I think my tools matter to me.
Hmm.
Right. I think maybe in that sense, like how a chef would buy the most expensive knife, if they keep on
Right.
growing. Similarly, I would want to just like I don't know. These are the things that really matter, and I use. Yeah. Yeah. So,
I used to be all about these consumer goods. Like I wanted the fanciest car, fanciest house, but I feel like now I just want the best tools and the best team. Like I feel like those are far more satisfying to me.
yeah, yeah, like a subscription to like Zapier and Retool, and I don't know, like
Hmm.
Notion, like a free. That would be great.
Some of
Yeah,
these tools are just so good. That I don't even know how they make money because I feel like the free tier is just so good. Like I use ClickUp. It's a pretty popular. We're not sponsoring by them or
yeah,
anything. I just really like the tool, and their
yeah.
free tier is just so darn good.
It's incredible. I think SaaS has come really far along, and I think some of these tools have gone so good. Like I think their marketing strategy to convert people from not paying to paying is just being great,
Right, right.
right? And I think that's something. So yeah, SaaS tools.
So you've been at this for a few years now, is that right?
Yeah, I've been at this for a few years. Yeah,
How
for about.
how has your work-life balance changed over those years? Or has it changed?
Uh, okay, why are work and life separate in the column of work and life? Like, so life composes of work plus extra things, and then there's work on the top. Like, if you were to really do that fraction, right? I don't know. Like, to be slightly, it's gone for a toss.
Okay.
That's the real answer. In the traditional sense of how people would want to look at it. But in the very realistic sense of it, I've become more of myself, if that makes any sense. I think through this process of building this startup and going through these different phases and facing all the challenges, I think I've been able to figure out more of who I am, right? A little bit more of, and I think so. I've become more of my like. Does that attribute to life? Now, like, do I say that? I don't know. There's that work life, like I don't know. I don't know how to really articulate that out. So that's where I am. I think. Yep.
How about in terms of like number of hours? Do you find that like has COVID affected you in terms of giving you more work, less work? Pre-COVID, like were you working more, were you working less? How's that changed?
I So I don't know, like, so I've been really one of the super fortunate individuals, I would say. I came across the whole podcast scene when just before lockdown was like beginning, like I think
I
before
see.
just COVID hit. And like I think I got like the Joe Rogan podcast and all the entire Naval Ravikant, whatever content he puts out there, plus a lot of Tim Ferriss, being able to explore that, that coinciding with the fact that we were still scaling our startup and getting access to and like essentially getting into meditation and a lot of things. So the lockdown has like really refined me, I would say. It gave me a lot of time to spend with myself, uh, and that has really like ended that's really helped me, actually, quite honestly. It's one of the worst times for humanity, right, out there. But I've been insanely fortunate, right, to be able to discover so much, because I think I've always had the stamina to consume long form content out there, right? But I think I've never actively looked for high quality long form content, right? I've not been able to find, let's say, enough of it. Like there was always the Y Combinator content that is out there accessible, right? But mostly outside of that, so like good podcast became a source of learning, and in parallel to that, like just being able to access a lot more of yourself. I think because Naval really I think Naval offers you articulation, right, through his podcast. I think more than whatever he's trying to teach you. I think you listen to his podcast, you go back, you pitch your startup 10x better, right? I don't know, and in that process, you're able to talk, you're able to think your thoughts clearly as well. And I don't know, that has a delta, that has a change, significant change on your overall self over an extended period of time. So that's what happened to me during the lockdown, if that's an indication. And we were able to really put that behind. I was able to take all of that and put that behind Freestyle, and really like fuel that engine like along. And I got my co-founder into that. I started prescribing what I know to like anybody and everybody whom I could get to. Yeah. So in fact, like I got my sister to start a startup as well
Huh.
during lockdown. Yeah, yeah, as well. Like so, yeah. So that's how lockdown has been for me. And she's already made like a decent amount of revenue, and she's still in college, right?
That's
So
cool.
yeah, because I was able to articulate everything that
Yeah.
I could not understand while I was in college about a startup, and I was able to really distill it down to her to understand. I think that yeah. So it's been great for me, actually. I've been working a little bit more. The answer to your question, but I've
Yeah.
been working like a lot more on like a lot of different things that come back. That are circle. Everything is connected. Like so if I'm working on myself, it's coming back to my work. I'm working on my work and trying to find. So it's been like a good holistic time, I would say. Yeah.
Okay. It's good to hear.
Yeah.
How'd you go from a company that started off being boots? Like, did you know you wanted to raise money from day one? Is that an idea that you had, or is it something that came later?
Oh, yeah. It was like in the when we started out, like that was the root cause of the wrong decisions that we took upfront,
Okay.
actually, right? So a lot of wrong principles. Like again, like we've been in it for 3+ years, and out of that, I would say 1.5+ year was just correcting basic mistakes that I think most people who would have like a lot more who would have the basics sorted as like
Yeah,
what they want, how they want to approach it, would not have to spend that 1.5 hours that I have had to spend,
I see.
right, doing things. I mean, I like one of the other co-founders that I got in my company at the very beginning, right? Uh, I got that purely because of shallow reasons. Like I was like, okay, this person was my college, project partner and something like that. And maybe these things add up. Maybe this would be a good pitch. Maybe investors would be able to get behind that. But all of those quickly fell apart, right, for us. And I was fortunate enough that these things fell apart right in time for us, right, as well. And I had my current co-founders still
Hmm.
having my back through that process, and them saying, let's do it right, and actually learning that like we wanted to raise funds at the beginning,
Hmm.
and then there was a time when we just wanted to learn things, and then we wanted to just like then we were enjoying working on what we were working on, right?
I see.
And uh, and then we did realize that in order to grow, we wanted to figure out, we want to like experience and like really deliver that exponential growth out there.
Hmm.
Because like, so the one thesis that we've had, like one thing that has kept us together, is that our vision of future, right? So product sampling has been manual up until now. It's
Hmm.
going to be digitized in the future. It's a matter of whether we are going to do it or not, right? For us. So that one thesis has been like correct, I believe, in
Hmm.
running this experiment. So we've been able to get behind that thesis, right? And if it's going to be completely digital in the future, yeah, the best way to build it is through like getting private investment right behind. Like that does allow you to take the kind of risk, experiment,
Hmm.
build it in the way it really deserves to be built, right? And being a first mover in our category as well, so I think that is a component. So we did start off with like a bad intention, not
Hmm.
the right. We did start off with that we want to raise funds, but for the wrong reasons.
Hmm.
Then we quickly became like we were able to spend enough time, slog through the process, and understand why you need to raise funds, and raised it for the right process, right reason right now. I believe that.
Is this the first time you've raised funds?
This is the first time I've been able to successfully
Okay.
raise funding. Right? Yeah, that would be the correct articulation. For tech retards, we once tried to go out and raise funding for our media channel, small media company. Uh, yeah, we did not succeed at it. I think there were a lot of multi-channel networks in YouTube that would come along, to like bring you on and make you a part of that.
Hmm.
A lot of those happened for us, but I don't think that no funding as such like came through for that. But I did experience like, I don't know, like a week's or maybe 10 days worth of fundraising attempt and experience back then. Yeah.
How'd you know how to find these investors, and how'd you know what the right amount of equity to give up in exchange for a certain amount of money was? Or was it all gut feeling?
Oh, no. So there is a, I mean, we did draw up like the whole long-term, like, model. Like, again, because we have spent so much time into it and we understand the different variables involved now, we were able to draw out like a long-term map of like, where we are and what looks like us becoming a big company that is like really, really, being like what looks like us being the status quo software on product sampling, like
Hmm.
what gets us there, right? So we were able to map that journey, right? What all will we have to do? Probably we'll have to innovate in, so again, product sampling is targeting interaction fulfillment and the data part of it, of course. So it requires us to innovate on all these three fronts, right, as much as we can throughout the journey, and aligning with what the clients are looking to achieve through the combination of these three, right? So we were able to draw that out. So we have a, and that came with like I mean, again, there's a lot of good advice on what equity to give out as well. I could say I think that's one place where like Y Combinator advice is super helpful, right? I think that's one part that they've really worked at it and they've cleared it out, like I think quite decently. And Paul Graham has articles and everything on it, right? I think I really like that article, where he talks about the founder equity. I don't know, this does
Yeah,
not
I'm
resonate.
familiar with the article.
Yeah, he talks about like what amount of equity to give out to your co-founder, and it says what equity they're comfortable with and they'll enjoy staying in with this company. I think that's what it loosely translates into. I'm not able to verbatim quote it. Yeah, but I think that was a very good. That just felt so right. When
Okay.
I read that, and in terms of equity, with again like that followed through, like so with like the advice to 10% to 20% dilution for a seed round, right? And and like essentially like then mapping that out on your like what does the cap table look like as we keep on going, and how many rounds would we have to
Hmm.
tentatively raise in order to be where we want to be? Yeah. So that's essentially what we did to calculate that out. That I think that's mathematically calculatable, so one can do that.
And how do you find these people to invest in your company? And how many pitches do you used to do to get until you got a successful fundraise?
How many pitches did we get to the successful fundraise? Um, they again, like the Indian, startup ecosystem and the culture like over out here is quite amazing. It's healthy
I see.
actually. So there are a lot of events that are happening every now and then, and the established startups are always there, executing a program every now and then. Like I think Freshworks did something for startups, B2B startups last year, like during the lockdown, and then we were part of a couple of about 2 3 accelerators, right, in India
I
as
see.
well. We were able to sign on to them, like a couple of them equity free accelerators, right, and whatnot, and we got a lot of support from them. Like that is something we did not think previously would be actually helpful, but everybody knows somebody, right? And you need people to be able to get behind you, and uh, like I think so that was a very good thing that we did. Like instead of when we got rejected by the Y Combinator in March of 2020, I think when we applied that time, then we decided that hey, what about like all the other accelerators out there? Let's try and get in. Let's try to see if we like get through any other ones, and we got through a few of them, and they became really supportive. I think particularly I'm Calcutta like has a accelerator that's a premium B school in India, so they have a good brand name, they have a good people amount of backing that they provide you with, and then we had like like a couple of like a female, uh, like female focused accelerator where my co-founder was able to get into, and they got behind what we're doing, and then we got into Zone Startups, right? One of the Zone Startups programs as well. And all of these people got behind us, in like referring us to the right people here and there. And then we were out there on our own, like we have on Notion. We had a Notion list of every single place where you could fill a Google form and go and pitch, kind of an event. And we really worked on our pitch as well, quite like nice. I think uh, so that I think having a good solid pitch, and like opportunities are abundant out there. I think if you can like people need to be able to like hear you out and be able to understand you in the first 5 minutes. I think one of the worst mistakes I did, like like back when I into like when I was pitching earlier on, was like I was too cocky about the fact that I need 10 minutes to pitch, make my pitch, right? I was like, they need to give me 10 minutes. There's no way that this pitch session could be just 3 minutes, and it's a bummer when they shut it down at the end of three
I
minutes
see.
of fun. I have 27 slides to go. That does not make any sense. You have to bring it down to about 10 to 15, and they're not giving you less time. They're just requesting better articulation. And
Okay.
people ask you to complete those pitches in 3 minutes or 5 minutes, and I think now those things totally make sense in retrospective. Like, yeah, I mean, there are so many people who are out there with brilliant ideas, and like I think investors deserve to like have access to the best of them, right, through that process. So that process should be nice. So I think it's in the process. I think it's a process optimization task ultimately. Improve your pitch, get it clean, and get a lot of people to refer you to a lot of good people as well. Right? Yeah.
That Notion list that you're talking about is that something you built internally at your company, or is it something that you like found online? You just like went one by one and just like message or filled out the form for all of them.
So we found out the list. We found out every single link. We filled up. We put it on the Notion, and we had a timer set when is the deadline, and we
Okay.
connected that to a Slack, right? So we would know like okay, 5 7 days in we have to submit this. So we had
Gotcha.
like that placed in so that we made sure that we got to them, because when you're building a company, you kind of tend to like deprioritize filling up an application because you're like, I mean, I'm doing real business here, right? And I think it just helped us prioritize those things, right? And yeah, that's how we fill those forms.
Cool. Well, I'd like to thank you for your time on being on the Fuse show today. I just like to end all of my calls with the same question. What's the best way for our viewers to get in touch with you if that's something they'd like to do?
Uh, I think I have my Calendly on my LinkedIn already. That's a great way to get in touch with me. Uh, DMs on Twitter, both of those, LinkedIn, Calendly plus my Twitter would be perfect. Yeah, yeah.
Sounds good. Well, thanks
I
you
think
for.
the best would be to get the Calendly link.
Okay.
I would say, yeah, like a quick meeting, 10 15 minute meeting, yeah, would be perfect.
Sounds good. Well, thanks for your time today.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for having a chat with me, hearing me out. Enjoyed sharing my story, David. Yeah.